This fire at Jacksonville Airport's parking garage stunned and frustrated travelers in the entire area. It damaged at least 50 cars and left passengers stranded without their vehicles. New perspective from Jacksonville City Councilman and local insurance agent Matt Carlucci. He was among those who had a car parked in that garage. With hurricane season on the way, get ready for rate hikes to go into effect. And there's a project ready to go to explain how Jacksonville's public utility restores and replenishes the regional water supply. JEA's Vicki Cavey discusses the preparations and necessities for a public utility on This Week in Jacksonville.
Thank you for joining us. Bruce Hamilton in for Kent Justice this week. So a week ago Friday, fire tore through the hourly parking garage at Jacksonville International Airport. Investigators are still trying to figure out the cause, the exact origin. Frustrated vehicle owners are finally getting their cars back, finally finding out if they were damaged in the blaze or spared. Tuesday, the north half of the garage reopened. Fencing blocks off the southern half of the structure, the scene of the fire and partial collapse. Thursday, one day shy of a week of when the fire broke out, tow trucks began removing vehicles and taking them to an outside lot. Airport officials finally contacted owners and let them know they could finally get their wheels back. Among those travelers who had a car stuck in that burning garage, Jacksonville City Councilman Matt Carlucci, who joins me here on This Week in Jacksonville. Hey, thanks for being here.
Hey, glad to be here.
Actually, so we're doing this show on Friday. Both you flew out of AX and found out your cars were there. How should I put this? Stuck in limbo. You just got your car back. Your wife's in the process of getting her car back.
Yeah.
How'd you fare?
I couldn't believe it. The wind was blowing so hard that day, so there was so much smoke. I thought I'd get smoke damage to my vehicle if it didn't get burned up, but my vehicle was on the other side of where, you know, the smoke and the fire were going, and everything was blowing that way. My car was over there. I picked it up today, and it smelled better than when I left it.
So you were lucky.
I was lucky.
This has been an exercise in frustration for so many people. For people who didn't have another mode of transportation and had to get a rental car, you know, they'd go, and you're an insurance agent, they'd go to their insurance company and say, hey, I'm out of pocket here. And, you know, the insurance people would say, well, you know, we need proof. It was a catch-22.
Well, it was, and you can't file a claim unless you know you have one. So if I'd have tried to file a claim on my vehicle, well, my vehicle had no damage, not even smoke damage. My wife rented a car, and but her car I don't think's had any damage either. She's probably picking you up about right now. We got very lucky, but it's like I mentioned to you earlier, Bruce. To me, the big blessing, the huge blessing, was that nobody was killed and nobody was hurt. You can replace cars, but you cannot replace the lives. And you know, and there were people that had just left the parking garage just before the fire came, and I mean, in that way, we were very lucky. But to have two cars from your house in the garage that burns up, I mean, you can't make that stuff up. I mean, it's just, so we fared very well. A lot of folks did not. And I mean, you can see the cars that are charred up there, like they've been through the oven in the fire. And I'm sure a lot of people had the smoke damage that I was talking about. And smoke is a covered claim, too.
Yeah.
If your car didn't catch on fire, but it's got smoke damage, that's going to be covered as well.
Yeah, but people said, you know, we called the airport, we couldn't get any answers. That had to be a bit disconcerting.
Well, what was difficult was they couldn't get up there to see and observe the area until some engineers got up there and told them where you can walk and where you can't because the structure was unstable. So I went, I guess, almost a week before I found out, you know, the status of what my vehicle was in, and I was able to go by. And I called the valet folks this morning, and I went and picked it up, and I was astounded. I couldn't believe that it made it through, because that was a big fire. And the video that y'all had on Channel 4, I mean, it showed the flames, it showed the smoke billowing. You know, anyway.
What was your attitude, you know, eventually, okay, it is what it is, and I don't have any recourse here, so I'm just going to have to wait?
Well, I found out about it when I was out of town, so that's when I came to the conclusion, well, you know, it is what it is. I'll have somebody come pick me up from the airport, you know, when I get back to Jacksonville, and I'll just wait it out, because by then I knew that nobody was going to be able to get up there until they figured out what was structurally sound and what wasn't. So I just, luckily we have an older vehicle, a third vehicle, and I drove that, and then my wife, she got the rental car. But her rental car won't be covered under insurance because I don't think she's got a claim.
Right. But some people will have claims.
But there's a lot of folks that they need to know this because I think about, if their car didn't catch on fire, but they got smoke, folks need to know smoke is covered as well under comprehensive. That's the coverage that you got to have is comprehensive. There's comprehensive in collision. Collisions when you drive into another car or to a tree or whatever. Comp is anything other than a collision, and smoke damage would be covered under that. So, but you can't file a claim until you know you got a claim. My customers, I've not had many call me on this, but we just try to give people the best advice we can, whether they're our clients or just as a city council member, talking to people.
Now, there are going to be lawsuits. Morgan & Morgan's already been retained by a number of people who had vehicles in the garage, and the law company released a statement that said, in part, we've already begun to investigate what went wrong and what could have been done to prevent the fire. We will work to uncover any negligence that contributed to this scary and dangerous incident and hold potentially responsible parties accountable for the damage that was caused. And then the airport, the Jacksonville Aviation Authority, didn't have much to say in response to the potential lawsuits. Here's what we got from them. Right now, we are focused on reuniting passengers who parked in the hourly garage with their vehicles, stabilizing the compromised garage structure, and returning the airport to normal operations. A question of liability. Can anybody be held liable? I mean, if a car bursts into flames?
Well, yes, they can. But the airport authority is going to take care of people's claims. They're going to take care of folks, I believe. We have insurance for those type of things. We have attorneys. Of course, it doesn't surprise me that a trial lawyer called, and that's fine. But the JAA, the Jacksonville Airport Authority, just needs to put the distractions aside and get to the bottom of it, find out what the problem is,
take care of business,
and settle up with people in a fair and appropriate way, indemnify people so they're back exactly where they would have been before the claim. But some folks would have lost some income because they didn't have the car, they got to go to work, they can't go to work until they get a car. So that could be potentially some liability that would arise. And when you start really unscrambling all the different types of things that could happen and what people may or may not have had in their car.
Yeah, baby seat, laptop.
Yes,
like
so there'll be plenty of things to look at. Yeah.
And the city's got to look at the structural damage that was done and, finding ways to fix that and get the parking garage operational.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going on a vacation sometime this summer. If the parking's not done, we'll just ask Uber to take us there.
There you go. Or have somebody drop you off. One of the kids, maybe.
All right.
All right. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Glad to be
everybody. And like you said, the good thing is that nobody was hurt.
And I hope everybody has a happy Memorial Day weekend and takes a deep breath, and we'll move on.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Speaking about moving on, hurricane season's almost here. Next, we're speaking with JEA's CEO. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville.
Welcome back to This Week in Jacksonville. Vicki Cavey leads JEA, Northeast Florida's largest public utility. Kent Justice talked with her about rate changes and the utility's growth. They started the discussion, however, by chatting about beginning her career at JEA with a summer job after graduating college at UF and eventually becoming its CEO.
It's beyond an honor. Yeah. There are 2,400 people that work there that serve over 1 million people 24/7 with services you cannot live without. If you don't have water, you don't live. Clean water.
Yeah.
If you don't have electricity, nothing works. I mean, just look at what happens around the world when they lose power. And it's an extreme honor. And I'm so privileged to have been kind of an entrepreneur within JEA. I always did different things. I worked in almost every area of that company, except for transmission and distribution, but we got great folks there. But I got such a broad sense, and I worked for so many great CEOs. Royce Lyles, who took us from the highest rates in the country to the lowest. Amazing man. Then came Walt Busells. What a forward thinker he was. Learned so much from him. Then we had Jim Dickinson. Worked for him, ran customer service, loved it. Then we had Paul McElroy, outstanding. Then I left, came back in, and it's just, it's an honor to represent and work for and with all the people at JEA and for this community.
Yeah, I think it's showing through. Like I said earlier, you're going to meet somebody today who loves JEA and loves Jacksonville like no other. I wanted to talk about some current events. One of the things we want to get to is maybe some preparation because hurricane season is coming very soon. Before, just recently, we heard some conversation, and then, hey, there are going to be rate hikes for JEA. Maybe explain some of that, because people, say, hey, at any time my bills are going up, it's a bad thing. But the bills haven't gone up in a long time for JEA. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. When it comes to water and wastewater, JEA took that over from the city in 1997. Didn't raise the rates for a long time. Raised them a little. We have not raised those rates in 13 years, Kent. 13 years. We've changed the structure so that it makes minimal impact on people, especially those of a lower income. And the average bill probably went up about 56 cents a month, average. And our average is like 6,000 gallons. 6,000 gallons a month. If we had kept up with inflation, your bill would have gone up $32 a month.
Wow.
And Jacksonville is growing, and we also serve St. Johns County and parts of Nassau County. And I think I saw a recent news article where Jacksonville was the 4th largest or fastest growing city. We've been discovered.
So when there's growth like that, what's the impact to the utility? You have to grow with it, right?
We have to grow with it. We have to build new plants. There are some regulatory pressures on the water side. We can't do surface water discharge anymore, but we've got some great plans on how to handle that. That means we can't pump treated water into the river by date certain. So we're handling that. We've put reuse water in, down in the south part of the county and wherever we can, so we're not wasting the Florida aquifer potable water that we are so fortunate to have. I mean, a lot of places use surface water or desalinization, which costs a fortune. We are so fortunate here. On the electric side, we're growing. Most of it is from the rate increases on the electric side, which came to about 3.7%, that just went up in April, which is about $4 a month. That came from, to be honest, from Vogtle.
Okay. Something I was going to bring up. Plant
really?
Vogtle is the nuclear power plant in Georgia that JEA has helped finance. You've got a contract to work with them over the next several years, right?
20 years.
Yeah.
We buy about 206 megawatts from there. It is actually owned by Southern, but MEAG, Municipal Electric Authority of Georgia, another public utility, had rights to purchase some of that. We chose in 2008 to sign a contract to buy 206 megawatts. Yeah. Well, so a lot of stuff happened.
Was that a good idea at the time? Because 2008, then a whole bunch of things changed in the economy and the recession and all of that.
A lot. Was it a good idea at the time? Yes. Plus, don't forget, greenhouse gases was coming. Nuclear is clean. It was the first nuclear unit built in the United States in decades. First. And we had an opportunity to get some of that as clean power, so we did. And some of it, things happened that you could never imagine. Westinghouse went bankrupt. Westinghouse. I mean, that's a black swan event you could have never thought of. I think it came in, I can't remember if it was 7 or 8 years late. It was originally budgeted at $18 billion, came in at $35 billion.
Twice the cost almost.
Twice. JEA had planned for $1.4 billion of cost to us in addition to the power. Came in at $3.5 billion. So in simple terms, we had to take out a mortgage to pay for that increase in cost, for the capital cost to build it.
And there was no way, legally, there was no way to say, hey, we changed our mind. We don't want to do what we said we'd do in 2008, right?
I know that you did your homework, and you know that JEA tried that. We went to court and tried, and the judge ruled, no, you can't get out of it. And MEAG and others, they had already bought the bonds to build it, and that train had left the station, and so they wouldn't let us out of it. So you carry on. Yeah. So we carry in debt service and mortgage payments about $170 million a year for Vogtle.
Yeah. Is that something that, hey, we can still see the positive, the clean energy that's coming our way? Where's the silver lining, I guess?
Well, the silver lining is 206 megawatts of carbon-free. I won't say clean, I'll say carbon-free emissions. So we've done that. We're part of the first project like that in decades. And nuclear will be and is a hot topic right now. And if we want low emissions power, reliable power, nuclear is the future. Decades, but it is the future.
We all need to get ready for hurricane season, which is just around the corner. Getting our houses ready is one thing. Getting a major utility ready, quite another. More on that when This Week in Jacksonville continues.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Start of hurricane season's days away. For JEA, preparedness is a year-round process. That's one thing JEA CEO Vicki Cavey, in her discussion with Ken Justice, talked about, as well as how you should prepare.
Well, first you need to download the Jax Ready app. That is the city's app, and then JEA's app, because we can use that to communicate with you wherever you are, via your phone. Be prepared, have your kits ready to leave. We have some information on our website. Be prepared to evacuate if you have to. Have a communications plan with your family. JEA works all year long preparing for storms. It's part of our DNA in Florida, and we do it so well. I didn't realize that until I got in the CEO seat, how unique we are. When you go and meet with other CEOs around the country, they don't have an emergency operations center that runs 24 hours, all the time. They don't have folks who are 100% dedicated to that. We continually train our employees. We continually are trimming trees. We have a pole replacement. When it comes to water, we have really built up our water system, meaning we put some backup generators for our pump stations, because if we lose power, the wastewater doesn't get pumped to treatment. And the other thing is we have so much water coming in from the rain. So we are always prepared, and I've got to give a compliment, if I can, to our city EOC and Andre Ayub and Chief Powers, TK Waters, Mayor Deegan. I was thrown into the fire last year. We had to activate that EOC, the city EOC, 4 times. Remember Debbie, Milton, a couple other storms I can't even remember. And our response is unbelievable. And the way we can handle and communicate, we bring together all the city partners. A lot of investor-owned utilities aren't brought into that fold like JEA is. We have world-class emergency road access teams that was created by JFRD here to go out and clean the roads. We partner with them. It is a tremendous asset to this community how well we work together, all the agencies.
Speaking with some of those people involved there, it is about the communication and being able to have your utility with the other first responders and everything. That does make a difference in how you can react to damage that's happening.
And I'll tell you too, we take care of 8,000 miles of transmission and distribution power lines.
I'm going to let that sink in for a second.
You heard that. You can drive from Jacksonville to Seattle, back to Jacksonville, and back to Seattle.
Do it again, yeah.
That's what those men and women take care of.
Wow.
There's about less than 300 of them responsible for that. I have such respect for our line workers, who, by the way, are some of the best in the country, and have the trophies to prove it this year. 24/7, leaving their families who are dealing with the storm as well and may have had to evacuate and have no power, and then mutually going down and helping other cities after we've recovered here.
Let's wrap up here. I know a few years ago with the prior CEO, who is no longer in town or what have you, there was a lot of discussion. Hey, what's the future of public utilities? Are they viable? Are they going to make it? A lot of discussion then. How do you feel some 6 or 7 years later about the future of JEA as a public utility for Duval County and surrounding areas?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Public utilities, public power specifically brings an awful lot to every community. I think that was I hate to use this word, but kind of a false narrative that was created. The whole death spiral thing and what you're referring to, it was just so unfortunate and inaccurate. And I think that's all I'll say about that. But public power is strong, JEA is strong. We're proud to serve our customers, and we do our very best to keep the rates as low as we can and make sure that you have affordable, reliable, and sustainable power. It's a three-legged stool.
Yeah.
And it's a balance act. And, you know, utilities are not cheap.
I'm sure it's not easy. Yeah, not cheap and not easy, right?
Not cheap and not easy, but, man, we have a great team. We take it very serious, as I'm sure you can imagine, and we get the job done. And I couldn't be more proud to work for my city and for the people that I serve, which are the customers and also the people that work at JEA.
More to talk about. Vicki will be Kent's guest on the latest episode of This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. Podcast goes in depth at issues facing JEA, and you'll learn more about KV's rise from student summer worker to chief executive officer. New episodes every Thursday at 9, and you'll find it right now on News4Jax Plus under the channel This Week in Jacksonville. You'll also find This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition available wherever you'll find your podcasts like Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Kent is back next week. His guest, Chris Hand. They discuss all things local, state, and federal in our Hand on Government episode. I'm Bruce Hamilton. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17 and online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. Have a great day.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.